pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, telas ng sinangalan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng bagaw, ay ginagak tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na naghihindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pamay di magdidinig, luma ng araw ng walhati pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo, aming bigaya na pagkay mag-aami, at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Mga kababayan,
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's event, the public forum and presentation of flagship projects being held by the Search Committee for the next Philippine General Hospital Director. I am Dr. Mark Anthony Sandoval, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies for today. First off, let me introduce to you the members of the Search Committee. Our chair is Dr. Marie Josephine De Luna, who is currently the chair of the Department of Physical Sciences and Mathematics at the College of Arts and Sciences. We have Secretary Roberto Lara, Secretary of the University and of the Board of Regents, who is the President's representative. We have Dr. Carmelo Alfiler, a former PGH Director and present Professor Emeritus of the UP College of Medicine. We have Dr. Babita Morjani of the College of Dentistry. We have Dr. Mark Jason Milan, currently the president of the PGH Physicians Association. We have Ms. Elizabeth Cardenas, chief of the accounting office of PGH. We have Mr. Josel Ebesate of the Division of Clinical Nursing Operations of PGH. And lastly, we have Ms. Anne-Marie Alto of PPAW as our secretary. This will be the outline of our program for today. After me, there will be a welcome remarks by Professor Carmelo Alfiler. Then we will be briefly introducing the loan nominee. Our loan nominee will give both the state of the PGH report and the presentation of the flagship projects. And this will be followed by a question and answer forum. And lastly, our committee chair will give the closing remarks and the reminders for the schedule of the sectoral consultations later today. May I now call on Dr. Carmelo Alfiler to welcome our participants in today's activity. Dr. Alfiler.
Thank you, Mark. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Sa ngalan ng Search Committee para sa susunod na PGH Director, malugod po akong bumabati sa buong komunidad ng UP Manila PGH sa araw na ito. Ito ang natatanging araw na kung saan tayong lahat ay dapat lumahok sa isang masusing talakayan para sa ikabubuti at ikauunlad ng ating pinakamamahal na PGH. For as many people say, and I quote, the success or downfall of an institution will depend not only on its leadership, but also on its people, end of quote. Some of you may remember that we celebrated 100 years of excellence and leadership in quality healthcare for the Filipinos on August 17, 2007. The following year, during UP's own centennial year, Republic Act 9500, or the UP Charter of 2008 was passed, strengthening UP as the national university, with PGH getting the undisputed label as the National University Hospital. I believe that these events provided a backdrop to where PGH should navigate itself towards the future through time. And as time flies, each new PGH administration also faces new challenges and problems for which fresh solutions should be skillfully crafted. To this end, let's pause for a while and listen to each other. For the next 3 continuing and post-COVID years, our immediate future are most crucial to PGH operations and in keeping PGH as the crown jewel of the Philippines and of UP. Thank you very much and welcome to this public forum once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alfiler. May I now introduce to you our lone nominee for the next PGH director, our current director, Dr. Gerardo D. Legaspi. Dr. Legaspi, can you now start presenting your flagship project?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sandoval, and thank you also, Dr. Alpier, for setting the tone for this morning's event, bringing us back to those important parts of PGH's history that catapulted us to the national level as a university hospital. If I may be allowed to share my screen. Before I go on, I'd just like to say that there's a very enriching 6 years that I have gone through here in PGH, and I cannot let this moment pass without thanking all the people who have supported and who have spent their hours in PGH serving others. I'd like to make special mention of my deputy directors who have stayed the course amidst all the challenges, personal and otherwise, just to deliver what we have promised 6 years ago. And maybe it would be good also to go back as we look at the future on where my journey as a director started. Started out in our usual BCE emergency room. No? In 2009, I had a German rotator, an intern from Stuttgart, who shadowed me everywhere I went, and one of those areas would be the ER. And at the end of his rotation, I asked him what he thought, what was his thoughts about PGH. And I think probably for lack of word, because of limitation of the language, he said, "I think, sir, life is cheap in PGH." And I asked him to explain why. And he said, "Sir, because I saw in the emergency room how much people do not have and how much the hospital cannot provide, and actually people died when it could not be delivered." So with that in mind, I thought that as a neurosurgeon, I was beyond this, but it gave me a realization that something had to be done. So I went to the then director, Dr. Jogon, to complain. And after a 2-hour talk, I came out of his room as the new chair of the Department of Patient Services. And that's where my journey in admin started. So we improved the patient services so that we'll earn more, so that we'll give more to these people in the emergency room that needed it. There's some modest achievement in that, but I guess as nature would flow to the path of least resistance, when it was time for Dr. Gonzalez to find his successor, he pointed to me and I landed in this job. But I must make some disclosure that I have no formal training in hospital management or public governance. I'm just a neurosurgeon doing about his usual way, trying to make our specialty grow more than anything else. But I guess my experience with the admin of PGH brought me, just like those who preceded me, to the realization that something had to be done. So I hinged my goals to a very simple concept. Ang tanging kailangan ng gawin ng pasyente pag pumunta ng PGH ay humiga lang. Ibig sabihin nun, dapat gawin natin lahat para sa kanya. Pagpasok niya ng pinto, hanggang paglabas niya ng gate ng PGH. Yun lang po, simpleng konsepto lang. At hindi po madali ito, kahit simpleng konsepto. Alam natin na lahat na nagtatrabaho sa PGH, halos imposibleng gawin ito. Pero total, mangangarap na rin lang ako noong 2016, ito ang aking pinangarap. Hindi po siya madali. Dahil nga, bukod pa doon, kailangan nating isama ang mga iba pang aspeto ng PGH. especially when it comes to excellence in the academe, which makes us a national asset. Being an academic hub for healthcare. And of course, we want always to be the bastion of excellence and innovation, which was difficult if you didn't have money. All talent, but nothing to show for it. No? In fact, because ang laban na kasi noon is technology. So, and I think as we do all this problem solving and evolving today, it will prepare us for the future, which in a bigger scope, more than technology or specialization, is the universal healthcare. So all the plans that we are doing now, I think everyone is doing now, will lead to universal healthcare and the primary care as well, which I believe could have been a good tool to combat the current crisis that you're going through. But how do we do this? We do this, of course, by setting the right goals, by attracting and retaining and developing our greatest asset, which is our human resources. And this includes everyone, not just the doctors, the nurses, the NAs, everyone, the engineers, and even the janitors, as we have learned in this crisis, all contribute to serve all the Filipinos as a whole package. We will aspire towards health leadership as our biggest advantage being the University of the Philippines behind us, introducing the best available medical service to the country, pioneering relevant forms of training and practice that respond to national needs, growing into an academic health system, taking full advantage, of course, of UP being with us, and shaping our predisposing the careers of our country's best medical talents towards public health, scientific, and academic objectives. So, but as I said, this wasn't easy. And looking back in the last 6 years, I think we've had an upward trajectory, which is really, uphill battle, where we had to improve on key operational and fiscal problems and follow academic trends as well. And of course, maybe the flagship programs I proposed 6 years ago, 5 years ago, will be good to look back to as we plan for the future. But the one big hurdle that we had to go through in the last 5 or 6 years was to respond to the pandemic. And I think the bigger challenge is not only responding to pandemic, because eventually you learn how to do it, but of course how to continue work in other areas. The important training, research that we do here, and of course the service to non-COVID patients had to continue. Major adjustments had to be made, but I think overall we gained a lot from it, elevating our standards, jump-starting a lot of innovations and even modernization. Ironically, the EMR of PGH was developed and propagated during the time of the pandemic. So it is really taking hold of a crisis and doing something about it and learning the lessons that we could use from it. But looking back to the preparation for today, I think just a few of very important milestones in my career in the last 5 years, 6 years as director. I think so far we have achieved our goal to be a state-of-art hospital in terms of medical technology. We're the only hospital in the country with a high-focus ultrasound device that treats dystonia and Parkinsonism. We're the one of only 3 hospitals that can do radiofrequency ablation for arrhythmias of the heart in cardiology. We are only one of 3 hospitals with an active robotic surgery service, and of course our radiologic interventions will be at par with most other institutions here and abroad. So during the last 5 years, we have achieved our highest PGH budget in history of 7.2 billion pesos. And on top of this, there are the donations that came in both abroad and locally, amounting to more than 1 billion pesos already. And I think the much anticipated master plan that we have been talking for so many years before will soon come into fruition as we finish the 20-year master plan outsourced to a private architectural firm, or bidded out an architectural firm. We are going to expand PGH to more than 2,200 beds specifically, with the House bills already being approved at the Congressional Committee for Health, and going to be endorsed now to Senate. So that will put us at a bigger hospital capacity, maybe even preparing us for the next PGH in Diliman. But I think of all of this, if I'm going to be asked on my deathbed what my biggest contribution to PGH was we were able to get 810 new plantilla positions, and it's not just the numbers. No, it is 49 plantilla items for midwives who, from the history, from the time immemorial that PGH was created, did not have a plantilla position. Though our midwives had nursing aid items, much less than what they deserve because they're professionals. And also we were able to get 220 plantilla items for our fellows who worked in PGH after residency without any salary. They had to rely on drug companies or dole outs from consultants or their department. So I think there's if I'm going to be asked among the list that I can come up with, please remember me for this, if you may. So the progress towards our objectives will not be possible without fiscal changes also, and part of that is increasing funding and resource generation. I think the trend that we've shown as far as revenue and income was all upwards through the years. Our revenue has been increasing steadily since 2014, thanks to the fiscal changes that Dr. Jose Gonzalez has started, and I benefited much from that. And I think, if you see also, our expenses have gone up significantly because we tried to give everything for free here in PGH. A 1 million peso cardiac intervention, or a 500,000 peso IVIG treatment. So we're giving that now. So we're spending more per patient. We used to spend 23,000 per patient years ago. Now we're spending almost 70,000 per patient because of the high cost and the completeness of the service that we want to give. Our profit centers remain to be the laboratory, our pay hospital, and radiology, and they all account for a huge percentage of our income that we are able to use back for our charity patients and drive our programs here in PGH. So it's really the ability to earn more that gives us the capacity to do more. At dagdag nyo pa dito po ang suporta ng Senado, ng Kongreso at ng Gobyerno sa mga nabibigay sa atin na budget taon-taon. Kaya nagawa po natin ang mga programang ito hindi dahil maraming sumusuporta po sa PGH. Bukod sa ating mga tao dito, mga tao rin na naniniwala sa ginagawa natin sa PGH. Ang isang malaking punto siguro ng ating pagtataas ng ating kinikita sa PGH, ang kakayahan natin sa pagkolekta ng PhilHealth reimbursements. Pumasok po ito, dalawa lang po ang hospital sa Pilipinas sa alam ko na nakakolekt ng mahigit 1 bilyon isang taon sa PhilHealth, at ang isa po yung Southern Philippines Medical Center. At kaya po tinawag tayong the Billion Peso Club ng PhilHealth. At maganda po ang patakbo ng ating PhilHealth reimbursements. Maraming salamat sa ating mga tao sa accounting at sa PhilHealth office. At nakuha nating mapataas din ang average claim, average amount per claim, no? Na nag-contribute ng malaki sa pagpapataas ng ating reimbursement cost, reimbursement value, monetary value po. So katulad ng sinabi ko, ito po may ibalik natin bilang serbisyo at bilang igting ng ating mga programa dito sa PGH. So gamit ang mga perang ito at mga kinitang ito, tayo po'y pinalad na sa tulad ng sinabi ko, mamili ng mga gamit at mga teknolohiya na nag-aabante ng ating kakayahan, hindi lang sa pag-oopera, sa medisina, sa ating araw-araw na pamumuhay, sa engineering, sa computerization, at sa even in our grounds works. So this income has allowed us to move further with the plans of making PGH one of the technologically advanced centers, at least government centers, and maybe even now a hospital in general in the Philippines. Ang resulta po ng serbisyong maganda ay nagre-resulta po sa pagdami rin ng pasyente. Makikita natin na ang pasyente nung 2014 ay halos ay tumaas ang mahigit ng 20% noong 2019 at siyempre alam natin noong 2020 ito'y wala na sa kalahati ng dati. Pero ito po'y pagpapatunay na ang serbisyo ay napalawig natin, pupuntahan tayo ng pasyente. Maaring sabihin, bakit mo pang mas maraming gustong pasyente ang pumunta sa iyo? Sobra-sobra na nga yung dati. Pero hindi po natin maiwasan ito dahil ang balita po'y kumakalat na lahat ay libre sa pasyente. At siguro dahil sa resulta na binibigay ng ating mga kasama rito na maganda sa mga iba't ibang kasong dinadalog nila dito. Ang isa pong nangyari sa ating igting ng ating mga proseso at lalo na sa pagbibigay ng pondo sa ating mga pasyente, ay umikli po ang average length of stay ng mga pasyente. So makikita natin na kung available ang mga gamot, ang mga implants, ang mga stents, ang mga kailangan nila sa mabilis na paggagaling, mabilis rin sila nakakauwi. So I think ito isang malaking hakbang para sa pagpaganda ng mga proseso natin dito sa PGH. At sa kabila ng lahat ng ito, ako'y nagulat nung sa huling management review ng ating IRPD, pinakita nila na sa panahon ng pandemya, doon pinakamataas ang ating patient satisfaction survey. 93.8% po ang nagsabing very satisfactory ang ating serbisyo, ang ating kakayahan at ang ating kalagayan dito sa PGH. May mga puntos na negatibo pero tingnan lang po natin yun ng mga paraan para tayo lalo pang ma-improve ang ating serbisyo dito. So I think this shows that maybe patients may be more forgiving because or they're just very thankful that they got into PGH during this pandemic when beds are really very precious and difficult to come by. Pero ito po'y magandang punto na nagpapatunay na siguro kung sa ating mga programang ginawa sa mga taong dumaan ay nagkakaroon na ng epekto kahit papaano. And I think lastly, gusto kong point out din po na ang ating mga programa sa research has resulted to an increased publication rate from 8% in the past to 37.9% as reported by ERO in the last research forum po. Dumami po ang ating completed works to almost 500 papers. Dumami po ang mga napipresent abroad at dumami rin po ang napapublish sa mga journals. In fact, ang rating, ang world ranking po ng universidad ay malaking parte dahil sa mga preclinical and clinical and health-related research work na maaaring malaking ng contribution ng PGH ko doon. At ito po yung nangyari dahil po sa pagbibigay pansin natin, pagbibigay diin sa research, and we put our money where our mouth was by putting in more money to research, and we are now at 30 million a year from our income. Dahil po siguro, dahil naisip ko po, bakit po naglalagay tayo ng 5% ang ating budget sa gender and development, which is very good, but wala tayong linalagay sa research. So mula po doon, naglagay na tayo doon at nakita natin ang resulta sa ating mga publications. So sa background po na yun, I have a few minutes to present to you the programs that I think, if given the chance, will continue to the upward trajectory that we showed you. And I'd like to start with the improving governance. There is a big need to streamline management processes. I always say that government procurement processes or government processes are not compatible with good public health service. Kailangan po, yun po those are the rules that we have to follow. That's why we have, but only way we can improve that is by streamlining it on our end. We have to use all of these management processes to help us resume our pre-pandemic levels and continue organizing PGH to the 7 hospitals that our predecessors, it used to be 5, no? I basing it on the manuscript of Dr. Jose Silao, to manage the big units of PGH like ER, outpatient, SOJR, Cancer Institute, the Pay Hospital, the new neuroscience and multi-specialty building, of course, the charity service, as separate hospitals already, if possible, with semi-independent fiscal autonomy, just like what's happening now with SOJR, and is giving us very good results. So I think we should be able to do this for the other units, the big units of PGH, and with the opening of the new ER, I hope Dr. Ocampo will be able to take advantage of building it from the ground up, the new ER hospital, so to speak. It is also a realization that we cannot do it alone. We have to harness efficiency of the private sector, and we are doing that with donations from private sector, not only of funds but also of services, and we are learning a lot of them, a lot of lessons from private sector efficiency. Our healthcare management development partnership with different agencies, both government and non-government, should continue to be able to allow us to further expand our services in terms of actual people service, but also in terms of training and research capabilities. Recently, nakakuha po tayo ng 30 million pesos sa ating budget para bigyan ng pansin ang isang bagay na palagay ko malaking lesson sa atin nitong pandemyang ito, na ang pinaka-importanting asset ng isang hospital ay ang human resource. So I think in the next 3 years, I will really try my best to even upgrade all the development and training that we're doing to our manpower here in PGH. Aside from improving their lives here within the hospital, we have to improve their capabilities to help them advance further. In line with that, we are signing an agreement with the Asian Institute of Management for us to be given a customized management program for anyone in PGH who'd like to develop his or her management skills. And of course, on top of that, we should continue governing PGH to make it COVID adaptive and resilient. I guess the other main part of the programs that we have envisioned for PGH is to continue its computerization. I must admit that it was one of the slow processes we were carrying out in PGH, saddled with management issues, saddled with funding issues, because the initial study we had for PGH computerization would have cost 600 million pesos. So it was a big decision whether to buy proprietary or buy the system wholesale, or build it from the ground up. I think the pandemic has given us the answer to that. Dr. Homer Ko, to which we owe the radish and okra, the vestiges of our electronic medical record system, will now be the core of our computerization, by using it as the jumping board to expanding our digital transformation from the records of patients, from patients themselves to the services that will be rendered to them. So from entering medical information, automatically everything should connect to accounting, to inventory, to billing, to pharmacy, to OR, to lab. And this is being done now with the coming of our new chief of the Information Technology Office. So we have started buying the hardware, the new servers, and I think this has put us in a committed step to build PGH to do the digital transformation of PGH from the ground up, designed by us. So we would like to take advantage of all this digitalization, and hopefully will help us automate offices, just like the pharmacy that we envision to be automated, like a vending machine in its outlets in the different wards, connected by the pneumatic tubes system. We have to build a system responsive to the needs of our people. So the steps that Dr. Homer Co has done to ask people what they needed was vital to making him design the EMR, which was responsive to the needs. And I think it was very much well appreciated. And I think we will save a lot also if we do the computerization ourselves, of course, with the help of experts from all over. And in addition, I think anyone who will be able to master telemedicine, teleconsultation, online learning, and hybrid meetings will benefit most from all the lessons that we have gathered from this pandemic, with the way we conducted ourselves clinically and academically as well. So we also would like to push our department, not only clinically but also administratively, into on their own, each unit. No unit is big or small, as we told our chairs, to go for breakthrough findings or developments, which will be, of course, much needed by our public hospital patients. But I think more than equally important is to highlight what kind of efficiency we can achieve as a government administrative unit. So I think all of this is being done to show that we even as a government institution saddled with government bureaucracy, we should be able to find ways for all of our units to be able to banner their capabilities, and they can only do that by by administration supporting all their programs. We also, the clinical departments will be highlighted with historic first in Philippine medicine, and I think we've mentioned that earlier. But as on a personal basis, I think me being a surgeon, we have started our eyes on expanding our surgical services to other hospitals outside of PGH, and the Department of Surgery has done just that in Mabini, Batangas, where they did laparoscopic surgery in a municipal health center. So I think the concept of a rural surgery is being tested now by the department, and that is one way to go, especially as an answer to the limited movement of patients to PGH because of the pandemic. We are increasing our community rotations. We have just in the MOA with Santa Ana Hospital nearby, maybe 3 kilometers away, where our obstetrics and surgical trainees will go to serve and to train as well, and of course give an academic flavor to the hospital. We are continuously working on our system to put our quality improvement and patient safety unit make it more organic in the different areas of the hospital, and hopefully with the complementary programs like the ERAS, the post-anesthetic care program that we have, And of course, the varsity wellness program that we have, we continue to make people's lives better, not only in the hospital, but also outside. So these are banner programs of different departments, the varsity wellness being bannered by orthopedics, ERAS by surgery, and of course, all the rest by the other units. I think introduction of Dr. Alfiler, of us being a flagship of the National University Hospital, in line with UP being the National University, is a responsibility for any director to cultivate. And I think we should really continue being the apex hospitals in the universal healthcare scenario, wherein you become an apex hospital of any province that has an MOU or an MOA with us. No? So now we have MOAs with eight provincial hospitals and counting. And I'd like to thank Dr. Rafi Marfori for pursuing that as part of our primary care and universal healthcare push. No? As a National University Hospital, I think the UP system is one in believing that we also should be also present nationally. So the momentum for more PGHs complexes outside of Manila has been set, has been started, and PGH Diliman is now being reviewed by NEDA and the Department of Finance as a PPP project. We have started operating PGH Clark already as the clinical site for clinical service unit for the SEA Games, and we will use that eventually as our family medicine rotation and service area also. We, as a university hospital, it is imperative that we produce the necessary research, policies, and technical advice in one of the greatest problems, health problems that we've had in recent times, and this is COVID. We should provide the clinical leadership, and we are providing that in government as well, our experts being the advisors of the president, not only in producing CPGs and of course in vaccination, but in all aspects, especially in the resumption of services non-COVID related, but are still affected by the presence of COVID, which will require us to hone our skills in public information and education. We are now working on on House bills on the Senate and Congress that will support our expansion and modernization plans of a UP-PGH health system years from now. Of course, we should continue strengthening our ties with DOH. Even if you're not part of the Philippine Hospital Development Plan of PGH, us being not part of the DOH system, we still continue to give them advice, be part of their technical working groups, and of course, provide them with research for them to formulate policies and guidelines for us to use. And I think now we can dream of internationalization and globalization. I think we should start moving away from the culture of mendicancy that we've been adopting in the last few years because of lack of funds. No? Hindi na po tayo kailangan magmukhang mahirap para tayo tulungan ng mga ibang tao o ng ibang institusyon. ang ating pong estado ngayon ay papunta na sa isang PGH na tutulungan ng ibang institusyon dahil gusto nilang mag-identify sa pangalan ng excellence at ng isang pinagkakatiwalaan na institusyon. Hindi dahil naawa sila, kung dahil humahanga sila. Kaya nilang gusto makipag-ugnayan sa atin. It's the same principle probably why even how rich, no matter how rich, how well-funded Stanford University or Harvard hospitals are already, people still donate to them or put their estates into them because they want to identify with the name. So yun po ang ating gagawin. We'd like people to identify with what PGH symbolizes, and not because they pity us, but because they believe in us. And I think that will be our gateway to internationalization and globalization. we should extend beyond Ermita or even Diliman. I think we have enough capability and have enough people for us to be leaders, not only in the region, but maybe in the world again. And an example of this is the high focus ultrasound that we started, wherein patients from Malaysia, Vietnam, and Indonesia are actually lined up already for treatment. So magkakaroon tayo ng mga programa para po patuloy-tuloy nating ma-achieve na ang PGH will be an international name in medicine. And lastly po, siguro ang pinaka-paborito ko sa lahat, ang infrastructure program. No? Dahil po mahilig ako sa konting architecture and construction dahil ang tatay ko po ay civil engineer at mga kapatid ko ay mga civil engineers din. With ang mga napatayo po nating mga struktura at napa-renovate na mga buildings, katunayan po na kung tayo'y magpaplano ng mabuti at gamit ang ating master plan, maaring magawa ito kahit may pandemya, kahit kulang ang kakayahan, at sa mabuting pagpaplano, maaring hindi masyadong maapektuhan ng mga iba nating ginagawa. So sa dami ng ating mga proyektong nakasalang, kailangan nating talagang i-harmonize lahat ito sa pamamagitan ng 20-year master plan. No? Kailangan nating pag-aralang mabuti kung paano gagamitin ang mga espasyo. Sa master plan na ito, may mga buildings na gigibain at may mga buildings na itatayo. Yan po ay isang realisasyon na kailangan nating harapin dahil po sa building code ng Pilipinas. No? Kailangan pong bawat building ay nag-uusap sa kanilang function at hindi na inuulit ang kakayahan ng isa kung meron na sa kabila, katulad ng mga sewerage treatment plants at pati na rin ng mga water cisterns, ang electric, ang generators. No? Kailangan po nag-uusap-usap na sila lahat. At syempre po, kailangan natin tuloy-tuloy na ibalik ang historical na significance ng PGH. Ang mga buildings po, ang tinalagang mga important cultural properties ng National Historical Commission. Sa PGH, itong main pavilion, ang pharmacy, ang nurses home, Cancer Institute. Lahat po yan ay ating minamatang iplano kung paano may restore sa kanilang pristine beauty at nagawa na po natin to sa Dorm 1 at maaaring magpakita ko ng konting litrato mamaya. Pero po, kasabay ng ating historical restoration, dapat din nating ipursige ang modernization ng ating mga buildings, converting them to smart buildings that will increase efficiency and that will allow our people to do other things even more productive. And of course, we have to have our clean and green program going, which is a realization again here during the COVID, where we have to deal with a lot of wastes. So bago ko magtapos, gusto ko lang pong pakita, lalo na nandito si Dr. Alfiler, dating PGH Director. Ito po ang ating bagong emergency room na atin ang binuksan dahan-dahan sa ating mga non-COVID patients. Dahil dumadami na rin sila, mas marami ng non-COVID ngayon. Kung 80 nasa ER, 3 na lang yata ang COVID at karamihan ay non-COVID na po. So ito po ay 122 beds, bagong OBAS at bagong Department of Emergency Medicine. All stretchers and all beds are new. Our policy is never to put back anything that's old from the old ER. So bago po lahat ang gamit dito. At ang aking po sigurong baby ngayon ay ang old nurses home built in 1911, which looked like this in the original picture after it was built and designed by William Parsons, which became like this 2 years ago, with the many years of attempting to use it as a dormitory and increasing its space. But as I said, we have to plan our areas better, and of course, not more than giving more space. I think we have to give more comfort now to our healthcare workers who stay with us, and rightfully they deserve it. So this is how it looks now after 8 months of restoration work. We are ready to take in our tenants come January 1, doing the final pieces of the details. And we got a conservation architect to do all of this, and we will do this for the big nurses' home as well. As a response to COVID, and I think as a future proofing, pandemic proofing, in the future, we have built a 42-bed isolation unit, state of the art, negative pressure, ventilation, filtered and UV treated exhaust, which is complete with new amenities that will make the stay of our COVID patients and eventually our infectious patients, other infectious patients, in 4 compartments more comfortable. So right now we're using it as the facility for our pediatric COVID patients, which during the last surge saw a huge increase, and we had to transfer them to this unit to serve them better. So ang mga proyekto pong darating ay marami pa. Lahat po sila ay nakaplano na at ating pong inaasahan na sa 1 o 2 taon ay karamihan sa kanila ay mata-turnover na para magamit natin. At ang isa pong malaking proyekto na ating inaasahang matapos in 3 years ay ang multi-specialty building na maitatayo sa pamamagitan ng pagsasama-sama ng pondo mula sa pribadong sektor at sa gobyerno. So ito po'y magiging bahay ng mga maraming specialties at magiging sentro ng advancement ng ating neurosciences. Ang mga konsepto po ng bagong lugar sa PGH ay konsepto na international at as I said, globalized standards. Ito po ay ang charity ward sa bagong hospital na yon. Maganda po sa drawing, kaya po tayo malaki ang responsibilidad na ihambing ang ating mga magiging final na construction sa mga drawings na ito. At taparay ko naman po kaya natin. Nasa punto na po ng foundation nito at as I said, mga 2 o 3 taon ay maaari na matapos ito. Ang ating po mga plano sa PGH beyond 2022 ay nakasalalay sa lahat ng ito. We have to complete all ongoing and initiate the necessary ones in terms of infrastructure and make this more efficient with computerization and more effective with good governance and banner what we are good at so that we become truly the apex medical leader hospital in our country. So hindi po madali ito. This can only be done with all of you. Kung meron pong isa pang mga leksyon na ating masasabing nakuha sa pandemyang ito ay dapat hindi tayo mag-iisa at alam din nating hindi tayo nag-iisa. So with that, I'd like to bring you back to the future of PGH na ang ito ang projection ng master planning ng PGH na ang walang car is called ang aming ng Chancellor Padilla, carless front, and all of the cars will be in parking buildings on the side. Ito po ang tinatayong Neuroscience Center, Multi-Specialty Building. Ito ang Cancer Center na nasa PPP proposal na rin po sa ating sa NEDA and Department of Finance. At as I said, ang ating mga historical buildings ay isa-isa po nating ayusin para magbigay hustisya sa sa ating pinanggalingan. Ito po'y nasa alapaap ng aking imahinasyon na pag-iigtingin ang ating kasalukuyang kakayahan para sa mas malaki at mas mataas na hinaharap. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat at sorry na napahaba ang aking presentation but thank you for giving me time for this.
Maraming salamat, Dr. Legaspi. Thank you for giving us the state of PGH and also your proposed flagship projects. We invite our audience to type in any of their questions for our nominee, but I don't see any questions at present. Anyway, we have several consultations to follow, and maybe some of the issues would also be brought up during those sessions. I don't see any questions.
Mark,
Yes, Dr. Alfiler?
siguro umpisahan ko na muna. No? Meron namang can Gap stay on for another 5
Yes,
minutes?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay lang.
Well, yeah. Well, congratulations for the SOPA, no? Your state of PGH address. Napaubo ka na napaubo along the way. And I think that's what happens when you keep making speeches. But what I noticed is gumagaling ka na magtagalog after 6 years. Anyway, along your 2022 to 2024, the next 3 years have been predicted to be very difficult post-pandemic years. In fact, ang NEDA says up to 2040 yata bago tayo maka-recover, di ba? Economically. So with all that you have laid out initially during your modernization, your master plan, do you think there's a need to recalibrate some of these plans? Mainly because even the national government may not have that enough funds to support, no? Although PGH is always a very important beneficiary of government funds, but even if we have private donors, for example, working with us, in the end, ibabato pa rin sa atin yung maintenance, di ba? Ibabato pa rin sa atin yung pag-budget for personnel services, for capital outlay, unless mentioned na, for example, sa donor donated project na sagutin nila lahat yun over time. So how do you think within the next 3 years in particular, those plans should be treated?
So yes, thank you for that question, sir. Most of these projects, like the multi-specialty building, have been fully funded, programmed to be fully funded already, sir. The multi-specialty building will cost around 2.2 billion. Our private donor gave 700 million. We were just given 600 million in 2021 for phase 2. And we have in our savings another 600 million or 700 million to finish it off in the year. So I think this big ticket project is fairly set to be completed. The Cancer Institute, that's why we, as I said, hindi na po natin kaya maglabas ng pera pa at ng gobyerno. Kaya po minabuti namin. This is the Cancer Institute. The Cancer Care Center is a 15-story, 300-bed cancer care center. Minabuti po namin na gawin siyang private-public partnership project as the first, hopefully the first successful PPP health project. Kaya hindi po maglalabas ng pera ang PGH dito dahil sa mga provision ng PPP, ang maglalabas ng pera ay ang partner at tayo po bibigyan ng garantiya ng national government. So it should not affect our financial status here in PGH. Yung iba mga proyekto po ay halos funded na rin po. Privately and with government fundings in our savings as well. What we have done, the realization is that katulad ng experience natin, maluluma po lahat ito kung hindi natin pag-aalagaan. So nag-experiment po kami sa ating Pay Hospital with a budget of 25 million pesos every year. We outsource the facilities and management activities, facilities and management program, as well as equipment, preventive management, and evaluation program, which turned out to be a very effective one, because the oldest unit in the Pay Hospital was built in 2012. Hanggang ngayon po sariwa pang itsura niya, no? Dahil siguro nga meron tayong mga programs ng ito. So this encouraged us to probably expand our facilities management, because PGH is 10 hectares big, 22 buildings. They're building more buildings. So we were able to convince the government to increase our MOE by almost 200 million, what will go to services, repairs, and maintenance. So hopefully, with that, we will be able to have the whole hospital supporting our engineering service with outsourced maintenance. Probably in a bigger scale, it will become out less expensive also. So, and also the projection for income from our medical services, not only in pay but only in charity, also in charity. No? So pagka pinroject po natin, sir, the annual for, I think, the 5.6 billion budget, that is basic budget that's given to us, will cover for all expenses of patients. So I think we will also have enough savings for us to fund a lot of these projects in the future. But I agree, we have to modulate as we go along.
Okay, Dr. Legaspi, there's one question in the Q&A box. Do you believe that the number of administrative support staff is currently enough, given the increasing number of staff complement of health professionals for the past few weeks? Any plans other than requesting our agency to be exempted from the moratorium on hiring UP non-contractual or contract of service?
Okay, so the DBM circular, which prohibited contractual servicing, also stated that you can outsource non-core functions of our hospital. No? So we've been, as I said, we've been trying to employ that. And I think one clear example of that is our utility workers. No? Wala na po tayong items for utility workers dahil the low salary grades are being eliminated. Salary grades 1 to 4, I think, are being scrapped. So wala po tayo, tuloy-tuloy pong kailangan natin ng help ng ating UWs. Tumatanda po sila, nakakasakit sila, pero meron pa rin ang pangangailangan, hindi naman nababawas, dumadami pa. So we tried that, outsourcing our porters, they call them patient porters. We were able to get 55 for them to service the Pay Hospital because the income is from there. And we brought down the UWs to the charity ward. So yun po yung nakatulong kahit papano, halos 40 yata sila, para madagdagan ng UWs sa charity wards. So we can do that also for our offices. For clerical works na hindi naman sensitibo ang posisyon, sa mga front desk jobs na hindi naman masyadong maraming PGH policy, PGH information na maaring mailabas na hindi nating organic employees, siguro maaari na nating in fact, even our IT management, our IT maintenance can be outsourced. No? Dahil ang ating pong mga IT sa karabihan programmers, kailangan po natin siguro mag-outsource na rin. So, paano natin tutustusan yun? As I said, with good fiscal management, and I think our fiscal reports through the years, we average around 600 million income reprogrammable funds at the end of the year. Nawala lang po ito noong 2020, dahil nga at 2019 dahil po una hindi tayo nabayaran ng PhilHealth, pangalawa nagpandemya at naubos lahat ng pera natin sa pagpapatakbo ng pandemya. But I'm quite confident, but in 2021 and in the future, we will bring back the income that we used to have.
Thank you very much. The time check is already 9:07. Maybe we can proceed, but there are no more other questions in the Q&A box. May I now call on the Chair of the Search Committee, Dr. De Luna.
Thank you, Dr. Mark Sandoval. On behalf of the Search Committee, I wish to thank everyone who joined us in this public forum and also those who viewed the live stream via Facebook and YouTube. We've all heard our lone nominee's vision for PGH, his accomplishments in the last 6 years, and flagship programs moving forward in the next 3 years. I hope you liked what you heard. I wish to thank Dr. Gap Legaspi for presenting himself one more time to serve and lead PGH for another 3 years. When nobody submitted a nomination on the first deadline, I was worried that nobody seemed to want the position. Must really be a very daunting task to be PGH director. Not being a part of PGH myself, I cannot begin to imagine what it must have been like to lead PGH, especially in the last 20 months. I honor you for what you have accomplished as PGH director, but I honor you more for presenting yourself to serve for a third term. It may not have been an easy decision. So we sincerely wish you all the best. I also wish to thank our IMS team led by our director, Geoffrey Solano, for the technical support for this public forum and in the sectoral consultations. And to all who joined us in this public forum, thank you once again for your participation. Please do join us later for the sectoral consultations, and I hope we all have a pleasant day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Dr. Gap.
Thank you.
Naming mahal pamantas ang hirang magdinig namin sana'y inyong dinggin. Malayong lupain amin mangarating, di rin magbabago ang damdamin. Di rin magbabago ang damdamin. Luntian at pula sa gisang magpakailanman ating pagdiwang bulwagan ng dangan. Umayon itanghal, ibig at tapang, mabuhay ang pag-asa ng bayan. Mabuhay ang pag-asa ng bayan.
for PGH.
Sambayanan, Tiyang pag-asa ang may karamdaman, sa'yo'y walang tutulad o papantay. Sa pagtuklas o pagsasanay, serbisyong tapat ang aming alay, tungo sa bukas at bagong buhay. PGH, oh PGH, dakila ang iyong kasaysayan. Kapanahon, katapatan, paglilingkod ng buong kahusayan. Serbisyong tapat ang aming alay, tungo sa bukas at bagong buhay. PGH, oh PGH, dakila ang iyong kasaysayan. Kapanahon, katapatan, paglilingkod ng buong kahusayan, paglilingkod ng buong karangalan.
Good morning po.
We can log off now and see everyone at 10 for the
Tayo.
consultation.
Mark, out na tayo.
Yung
Out na
Zoom,
tayo.
yung Zoom natin
Yes,
sa
po.
10 o'clock, iba yun?